Part 1. First Contact Gone Wrong. The stars had never looked so threatening to Captain Sarah Chen as she stared out the viewport of her cargo ship, Defiant Dreams. The small vessel hummed quietly through the darkness of space, carrying nothing more dangerous than medical supplies and farming equipment to the outer colonies. Sarah had made this run hundreds of times before. It was supposed to be routine. Then the sensors started screaming. "Captain," called out her communications officer, Tom Bradley, his voice tight with worry. "We've got company, big company." Sarah moved to the main screen and felt her stomach drop. Surrounding them were ships that looked like floating cities made of metal and death. Each one was easily 10 times the size of her little cargo hauler. Their hulls were covered in weapon ports that glowed with menacing energy. She counted at least 30 of them, arranged in a perfect hunting formation. "Well," Sarah muttered, "this is new." The largest ship in the formation was a monster that stretched over a kilometer long. Its surface was covered in spikes and armor plating that made it look like a mechanical dragon. Strange symbols glowed along its sides, pulsing with alien light. Sarah had never seen anything like it, but she knew trouble when she saw it. A harsh, crackling voice filled the bridge as the alien ships made contact. "Unknown vessel," the voice boomed through their speakers. The translation software worked overtime to make sense of the alien language. "You will identify yourselves immediately. Prepare to be boarded and processed." Sarah looked at her small crew of 5 people. They were good folks, engineers, farmers, teachers heading to the colonies. None of them were soldiers. Her ship had no weapons beyond a few mining lasers used for clearing space debris. "Tom, open a channel," she said calmly. "Let's see what these people want." The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the alien flagship. The creature that appeared made Sarah's crew gasp. It was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. Its eyes were large and black, set in a face that had too many teeth. Golden armor covered its chest, marked with symbols of rank and authority. "I am Admiral Zexthor of the Galactic Empire," the alien announced. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "You are now prisoners of the Empire. Your species will be cataloged and assigned appropriate work duties. Resistance is futile." Sarah blinked. "Well, hello to you too, Admiral. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the merchant vessel Defiant Dreams. We're just carrying supplies to human colonies. Is there some kind of problem?" Admiral Zexthor's face twisted in what might have been confusion. "Problem? You are an unknown species in Imperial space. By law, you must be conquered and integrated into our workforce. This is not a negotiation." "Workforce?" Sarah's voice got a little harder. "You mean slaves?" "An efficient system that has served the Empire for 10,000 years, Zexthor replied without shame. "Your people will adapt, or be eliminated. These are the only choices." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Her crew watched her carefully. They all knew their captain had served in the Colonial Defense Force before becoming a merchant captain. They also knew she had strong opinions about bullies. "Admiral," Sarah said finally, "I'm going to give you some free advice. My people don't really like slavery. We fought wars about it. Big, messy wars where lots of people died. We're not really interested in starting that up again." Zexthor laughed, a sound like metal scraping on stone. "Your tiny ship against the might of the Imperial fleet. How amusing. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your species will be no different." Sarah looked around at her crew, then back at the alien admiral. "Okay, let me put this another way. We're asking nicely for you to reconsider. Maybe find a different line of work, something that doesn't involve enslaving entire species." "Impossible," Zexthor snarled. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. Observe the futility of resistance." The Admiral turned to someone off-screen and barked orders in his alien language. Through the viewports, Sarah could see the massive, Weapons on the Imperial ships beginning to glow, energy built up in focusing chambers that were each larger than her entire ship. "Captain," whispered Tom, "those are planet killers. A single shot from one of those could crack a moon." Sarah nodded, but didn't look worried. "Tom, could you please open ship-wide communications?" "Yes, ma'am." Sarah's voice echoed through every corridor and compartment of the Defiant Dreams. "Attention all passengers and crew. We've encountered some folks who think slavery is a good business model. They're about to shoot at us to prove their point. Everyone might want to hold on to something." She turned back to Admiral Zexthor, who was watching with obvious pleasure. "Admiral, last chance. Walk away. Find something else to do with your time. Maybe take up gardening." "Fire!" Zexthor commanded. The space around the Defiant Dreams erupted in light, a beam of pure energy that could have vaporized a small moon. Struck the cargo ship dead center. The blast was so bright that it lit up the hulls of all 30 Imperial ships. Energy levels that should have turned the human vessel into its component atoms wrapped around the small ship like water flowing around a stone. When the light faded, the Defiant Dreams sat exactly where it had been. Not a scratch marked its hull. Not even the paint was burned. Admiral Zexthor's mouth fell open, showing far too many teeth. Around him, his bridge crew was shouting in panic as their instruments went crazy trying to understand what had just happened. "That's impossible," Zexthor whispered. Sarah's voice came through their speakers, calm and polite. "Admiral, that was incredibly rude. We were having a civilized conversation. Our sensors," one of Zexthor's officers reported, his voice shaking. "Our sensors show the energy simply disappeared. It didn't hit the ship. It didn't reflect. It just stopped existing." Sarah appeared on their screen again. She was pouring herself a cup of coffee, completely relaxed. "You know, Admiral, I really didn't want this to get complicated. We're simple people. We haul cargo, we mind our own business, and we definitely don't like bullies." "What are you?" Zexthor demanded. "Human," Sarah replied, taking a sip of her coffee. "Though I guess that doesn't mean much to you yet." She set down her cup and looked directly at him. "Here's the thing, Admiral. We've been watching your empire for a while, following your ships, studying your technology, learning about your business practices. We don't like what we've seen." "Impossible. Our security is perfect. Our scouts would have detected any surveillance," Sarah smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Admiral, you've been looking for ships. We don't use ships the way you think we do." Zexthor's face was getting darker with rage. "Whatever trick you're using, it won't save you. All ships target the human vessel, full power." 30 massive warships turned their weapons toward the tiny cargo hauler. Every gun, every missile launcher, every energy cannon that had conquered 1,000 worlds focused on the Defiant Dreams. The combined firepower could have turned a planet into dust. "Fire everything!" Zexthor screamed. Space lit up like a new star being born. Enough energy to crack worlds converged on one small human ship. The blast was so intense that it temporarily blinded the sensors on every Imperial vessel. When the light finally faded, smoking wreckage floated where 2 Imperial frigates had been, destroyed by their own reflected fire. The Defiant Dreams sat unchanged. Sarah's voice cut through the shocked silence on the Imperial flagship. "Admiral, I'm really sorry about your ships. We tried to warn you that this wouldn't work." She paused. "Also, you just killed your own people. That's not very good leadership." Zexthor was staring at his screens in disbelief. His greatest weapons had not only failed, but had turned against his own fleet. What are you?" "I told you. Human." Sarah's voice was getting tired. "Look, we really don't want to fight you. We just want you to stop enslaving people. It's not complicated." "Never!" Zexthor roared. "The Empire will never bow to primitives. Activate the Voidmaker." Sarah's crew looked at each other with worry. Tom pulled up data on their screens. Captain, that's their planet killer weapon. It creates artificial black holes. Sarah sighed and finished her coffee. I really didn't want to do this, she said to her crew. Then she opened the channel to Admiral Zexthor. Admiral, you're about to make a very big mistake. The Voidmaker will create a black hole that will consume your ship and everything around. It for 1,000 kilometers, Zexthor announced with glee. Nothing can survive that. Nothing! The massive weapon at the center of the Imperial formation began to charge. Reality itself seemed to bend around it as it prepared to tear a hole in space-time. Sarah stood up from her captain's chair and walked to the main control panel. Her hand hovered over a single red button that none of her crew had ever seen her. Use. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I really hoped we could do this the easy way. She pressed the button. The defiant dreams began to change. Admiral Zexthor watched in growing horror as the small human ship started to unfold like some impossible flower made of metal and light. What had appeared to be a simple cargo hauler was revealing itself as something that hurt to look at directly. The ship was expanding, but not in normal three-dimensional space. It was growing inward and outward at the same time, existing in directions that shouldn't exist. By the dark stars, Zexthor whispered. What have we done? Sarah's voice came through their speakers one last time before the... Part 2. Impossible. Physics Admiral Zexthor gripped the armrests of his command chair so hard that his claws left marks in the metal. Around him, the bridge of his flagship had erupted into chaos. Officers ran between control stations, shouting reports that made no sense. Warning lights flashed red and blue as their most advanced computers tried to process what they were seeing. Report! Zexthor barked at his chief science officer, a thin alien named Velmar, whose 4 eyes were all focused on different screens at once. Sir, I don't know how to explain this, Velmar stammered. His voice was shaking, which worried Zexthor more than anything else. Velmar had a brain the size of a small moon and had never been confused by anything before. Try, Zexthor said coldly. Velmar's hands moved frantically across his controls. The human ship. It's not following any laws of physics we know. Our sensors show it's expanding, but it's not getting bigger. It's growing inward and outward at the same time. That's impossible, sir. Show me. The main screen displayed a 3-dimensional model of what their sensors were detecting. Where the small cargo ship had been, there was now something that looked like a geometric nightmare. Lines and surfaces twisted in directions that didn't exist, folding through dimensions that shouldn't be there. According to our readings, Velmar continued, the ship now has a surface area of approximately 50,000 square kilometers, but its volume is negative 700 cubic meters. Zexthor stared at him. What does that mean? It means the ship is bigger on the inside than on the outside, sir. Much bigger, and also smaller. At the same time, Velmar's voice cracked. Sir, I think I'm having a breakdown. Through the viewports, they could see the transformation continuing. What had started as a simple cargo hauler was becoming something that hurt to look at directly. Structures appeared and disappeared, existing in multiple places simultaneously. Buildings materialized in empty space, connected to each other by bridges that curved through impossible angles. Energy readings, Zexthor demanded. That's the strangest part, sir, reported Lieutenant Ketherall from the weapons station. The ship isn't using any energy source we can identify. Our scanners detect power levels that should require the output of a small star, but we can't find any reactor, any fuel source, any power generation at all. That's impossible. Yes, sir. Everything about this is impossible. Zexthor turned to his communications officer. Can we still contact the humans? I'm trying, sir, but their ship is jamming our signals just by existing. The interference patterns don't make sense. It's like they're broadcasting on frequencies that don't exist. Admiral Zexthor had conquered over 300 worlds in his long military career. He had faced enemies with weapons that could crack planets, shields that could stop supernovas, and ships the size of moons. He had never faced an enemy that seemed to be casually ignoring the basic rules of reality. "Sir," Velmar called out suddenly, "I'm detecting massive structural changes. The human vessel is—" "Oh no." "What?" "Sir, it's not a ship. It never was a ship." On the main screen, the impossible structure continued to unfold. What they were seeing now looked less like a spacecraft, and more like a city floating in space. But not just any city. This was a metropolis that existed in dimensions their minds couldn't properly process. Buildings twisted upward into space that folded back on itself. Parks and gardens hung in the void, somehow maintaining atmosphere, without any visible barriers. "Scan for life signs," Zexthor ordered. Velmar's 4 eyes went wide. "Sir, I'm reading approximately 50 million individual human life signs." 50 million? Zexthor's voice cracked. "That's impossible. Their cargo ship was barely 200 meters long." "Sir, I don't think it was ever a cargo ship. I think we've been talking to an entire human civilization." The communication system crackled to life. Captain Sarah Chen's voice filled the bridge, as calm and polite as ever. "Admiral Zexthor? Sorry about the wait. We were just finishing our afternoon expansion. I hope we didn't startle anyone." Zexthor found his voice. What are you?" "Still human, Admiral. Though I suppose I should introduce myself properly now. I'm Mayor Sarah Chen of New Geneva Station. Population 53 million and growing." "Mayor?" Zexthor looked around his bridge in confusion. "But you said you were a ship captain?" "I am that too. We don't really separate jobs the way you do. I captain our city when we're traveling, and I mayor it when we're expanded. It's not complicated." Velmar was frantically scanning the human construct. "Admiral," he whispered, "this is beyond anything we've ever encountered. Their technology doesn't just break our understanding of physics. It ignores physics completely." Sarah's voice continued cheerfully. "We noticed you charged up that black hole generator of yours. That's quite impressive technology, by the way. Very efficient. Are you planning to use it?" "You know about the Void Maker?" Zexthor asked. "Oh yes. We've been studying your weapons for quite some time. Fascinating approach to artificial gravity manipulation. A bit crude, but effective. Would you like us to move out of the way before—" "You fire it?" Zexthor felt a chill run through his veins. "You're not afraid? Should we be? It's just a small black hole generator. We use similar technology for our waste disposal systems." Lieutenant Kethral leaned over to Zexthor. "Sir, the Void Maker is fully charged. We could fire it now." Zexthor looked at the twisted cityscape floating in space where a cargo ship had been just minutes ago. 50 million humans living in a construct that shouldn't exist, powered by energy sources his science couldn't detect, using technology that made his most advanced weapons look like stone tools. "Fire," he ordered. The Void Maker activated with a sound like reality tearing. A sphere of absolute darkness shot toward the human city, warping space around it as it traveled. Where it passed, stars seemed to bend and stretch. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a controlled tear in the fabric of space-time itself. The artificial black hole struck the edge of the human city and stopped. Not absorbed, not deflected. It simply stopped moving and hung in space like a dark ornament. Came Sarah's voice over the speakers. "That's a nice little singularity you've got there. Very well-formed event horizon. Good gravitational field density. We could use this." Zexthor watched in horror as structures began to grow around the trapped black hole. Human engineering crews, somehow working in hard vacuum without suits, started building what looked like a framework around the artificial singularity. Within minutes, they had enclosed it in a sphere of crystalline material that pulsed with soft light. "What are you doing to our weapon?" Zexthor demanded. "Oh, we're not doing anything to it," Sarah replied cheerfully. "We're just giving it a better job." Black holes make excellent power sources once you know how to ask them nicely. This one will provide clean energy for about 10,000 years. Thank you very much. Velmar's instruments were going crazy. Sir, they've somehow converted our planet-killer weapon into a power generator. The gravitational fields are completely stable. It's beautiful. This is impossible, Zexthor whispered. You keep saying that word, Sarah observed. I don't think it means what you think it means. Around the Admiral, his bridge crew was starting to panic. These weren't just advanced aliens with better technology. These were beings who treated the fundamental forces of the universe like construction, materials. Admiral, came a new voice over the communication system. It was different from Sarah's, older with a slight accent. This is Professor James Wu, Director of Applied Physics for New Geneva Station. I've been studying your fleet's technology, and I have to say, you folks have some interesting ideas. Who are you? Zexthor asked weakly. I used to teach high school science back on Earth. Now I study how to make impossible things work better. Your ships use a fascinating approach to faster-than-light travel. Very inefficient, but creative. Would you be interested in some improvements? Improvements? Oh yes, we could probably boost your engine efficiency by about 3,000% with just a few small modifications. Make your ships faster, more maneuverable, and much safer. Interested? Admiral Zexthor looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the readings from their instruments with expressions of complete bewilderment. Their most powerful weapon had been converted into a human power source. Their enemy was offering to improve their technology instead of destroying them. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Sarah's voice returned. Same thing we wanted an hour ago, Admiral. Stop enslaving people. It's really not complicated. And if we refuse, then we'll be very disappointed in you. Nobody likes disappointment, Admiral. Zexthor was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his flagship, the most advanced warship in the galaxy, felt suddenly primitive and clumsy compared to the impossible city floating nearby. How many of your people are out there? He asked. Oh, you mean how many cities like ours? Let me check. There was a pause. Professor Wu, could you pull up the latest census data? The older man's voice returned. We've got about 12,000 mobile cities currently active in this galaxy, Admiral. Most of them are smaller than New Geneva. Only 20 or 30 million people each. We're still growing, of course. 12,000 cities, each one containing millions of humans. Each one powered by technology. Part 3. The Transformation. The urgent transmission from the Imperial homeworld crackled through Admiral Zexthor's flagship with the highest priority codes. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Supreme Commander Vaktos, the Emperor's right hand and the most feared military leader in the galaxy. His usually calm expression was replaced by barely controlled panic. Admiral Zexthor, Vaktos said without any greeting. Report your status immediately. Are you in contact with the humans? Yes, Supreme Commander, we are negotiating with them. Negotiating? Vaktos's voice rose to a near shriek. Admiral, we have a galaxy-wide emergency. Human cities have appeared over every major Imperial world. Thousands of them. They're just sitting there offering to help with emancipation logistics. What did you do? Admiral Zexthor felt his heart sink into his stomach. He looked at the impossible human city floating nearby, its crystalline structures glowing softly in the starlight. Supreme Commander, I think we may have made a mistake. A mistake? Admiral, the entire Imperial fleet is mobilizing. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have is being called to active duty. The Emperor himself is preparing for war. On the other side of the bridge, Velmar was frantically scanning local space. Admiral, he whispered, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching our position. Multiple faster-than-light contacts, closing fast. Zexthor looked at his science officer with growing dread. How many? Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. They're using a form of FTL travel I've never seen before. No warp signatures, no hyperspace distortions. They're just appearing. Through the viewports, space began to shimmer. Reality seemed to bend and twist as dozens of new contacts materialized around the Imperial fleet. Each one was different. Some looked like floating gardens with cities built into living trees. Others resembled crystalline mountains that sparkled with inner light. One looked like a giant snowflake made of metal and glass spinning slowly as it moved. But they were all clearly human. "Admiral," came Sarah Chen's voice over the speakers, still cheerfully calm. "I hope you don't mind, but I called for backup. We're having a bit of a situation here." "Backup?" Zexthor croaked. "Oh, yes. When someone starts shooting planet killers, we like to have witnesses. For the paperwork, you understand." A new voice joined the communication, this one with a thick accent that the translators struggled to process. "Admiral Zexthor, this is Captain Morrison of the city ship Highland Dreams. We're here to provide assistance and possibly some entertainment. I hear you folks have been having a disagreement," another voice chimed in. "This is Commander Jang of Peaceful Waters. We brought some engineers in case anyone needs help with their weapons systems. Your technology is quite interesting." And another. "Captain Rodriguez here, flying Desert Rose. We've got medical teams standing by if anyone gets hurt. Nobody wants this to end badly." Zexthor realized that he was surrounded by an entire fleet of human city ships, each one containing millions of people, each one powered by technology that shouldn't exist. His 30 warships suddenly felt very small and very alone. "How many of you are there?" he asked weakly. Professor Wu's voice returned. "In this immediate area, about 47 cities. We didn't want to crowd you. Total population around here is roughly 2 billion people, give or take a few million." 2 billion? Supreme Commander Vactos's voice cut through the channel. "Admiral, what exactly are you dealing with out there?" Before Zexthor could answer, a new transmission came through, this one from the Imperial capital world itself. The face that appeared was that of Emperor Maldrix the Eternal, ruler of 1,000,000 worlds, conqueror of 1,000 species. He was 10,000 years old and had never shown fear in his entire life. He looked terrified. "Admiral," the Emperor said, his voice barely controlled. "The humans have requested a meeting. They are waiting for my response." "Your Majesty," Zexthor began, "we are still trying to understand." "They moved our moon," the Emperor interrupted. Silence fell across every communication channel. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty." "Our moon, Admiral. The moon that has orbited our capital world for billions of years. The humans moved it, not destroyed it, not damaged it. They moved it to a different orbit to spell out words." "What words, Your Majesty?" "Please, come to the meeting." "Thank you." In perfect Imperial script, visible from the planet's surface. Admiral Zexthor looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their instruments in shock. Even Velmar had stopped trying to understand the readings and was just sitting quietly with his head in his hands. Sarah Chen's voice returned, gentle and apologetic. "Emperor Maldrix, this is Mayor Sarah Chen of New Geneva Station. I'm sorry about your moon. We'll put it back exactly where it was after our meeting. We just wanted to make sure you got our message." "How?" the Emperor asked, his voice hollow. "How did you move a planetary body across space without anyone detecting the energy required?" "Oh, we didn't move it through space, Your Majesty. We moved it through time. Much more efficient. We just borrowed it from tomorrow for a few hours and put it in a different place today. It'll go back automatically when the loan expires." Professor Wu added helpfully. "It's basic temporal mechanics, really. We learned the technique when we were trying to solve traffic problems on Earth. Amazing how useful time travel can be for municipal planning." "Time travel," the Emperor repeated numbly. "Just small-scale stuff," Sarah assured him. "We only borrow things for a few hours at most. Any longer and the paperwork gets complicated." Admiral Zexthor found his voice. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider the humans' offer to negotiate. Negotiate? Supreme Commander Vaktos cut in. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. With respect, Supreme Commander, said a new human voice, this one belonging to an elderly woman with a warm, grandmotherly tone. I think there might be some confusion about who the primitives are in this situation. Who is this? Vaktos demanded. Dr. Elizabeth Hart, former kindergarten teacher, current director of Galactic Relations for the Human Cooperative. I've been watching your empire for quite some time, Commander, and I have to say, you folks are still using some very basic approaches to civilization. Basic approaches? Slavery, dear. It's terribly inefficient. We gave that up centuries ago, when we realized that happy people work much better than unhappy people. It's not rocket science. Our system has worked for 10,000 years. Oh, I'm sure it has, honey. But just because something works doesn't mean it's good. We used to think bloodletting was good medicine too. Supreme Commander Vaktos's face was turning an interesting shade of purple. Are you comparing the Galactic Empire to primitive medical practices? Well, yes. Both involve causing unnecessary suffering based on outdated ideas. Both ignore better alternatives that have been available for ages. Both are maintained by people who benefit from keeping others ignorant. Dr. Hart's voice remained cheerfully patient. The main difference is that bloodletting only hurt individuals. Your system hurts entire species. Emperor Maldrick spoke up, his voice tired. Dr. Hart, what exactly do you want from us? Oh, that's simple, Your Majesty. We want you to stop hurting people, free your slaves, give them some basic rights, maybe consider letting them participate in their own governance. We're happy to help with the transition. And if we refuse? Then we'll be very disappointed in you, Dr. Hart replied sadly. Nobody likes being disappointed in their neighbors. Admiral Zexthor looked at the readings from his sensors. 47 human cities surrounded his fleet, each one a testament to technology so advanced it might as well be magic. 2 billion humans, all of them apparently committed to ending slavery in the galaxy through the power of being disappointed. Your Majesty, he said quietly, I recommend we accept their offer to meet. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Around him, alarms were probably blaring as human cities maintained their peaceful orbits over every imperial world. 10,000 years of absolute power, reduced to a conversation with beings who treated the laws of physics like mild suggestions. Very well, Emperor Maldrick said finally. Dr. Hart, we accept your invitation to negotiate. Wonderful. Dr. Hart's voice brightened immediately. We'll meet at the neutral station we're setting up right now. Nothing fancy. Just a nice conference room with good coffee and comfortable chairs. Admiral Zexthor, you're welcome to attend as well. Neutral station? Zexthor asked. Sarah Chen answered. We're building it now. Should be ready in about... Professor Wu, how long for a basic diplomatic facility? About 20 minutes, came the reply. We're using the standard prefab design. Nothing too elaborate. Through the viewports, Admiral Zexthor watched in amazement as the human cities began to work together. Streams of light passed between them, carrying materials and energy. In the empty space between the Imperial fleet and the human cities, a structure began to take shape. It wasn't built so much as grown. Crystalline frameworks appeared first, followed by walls that seemed to weave themselves from light and metal. Gardens sprouted in chambers that had no air, then somehow gained atmosphere. Within minutes, a small but elegant space station floated. Before them, complete with docking ports designed for both human and Imperial ships. There we go, Dr. Hart said with satisfaction. Admiral, Your Majesty shall... Part 4. The Reckoning. The conference room that humans had built in 20 minutes was more beautiful than any diplomatic facility in the Imperial capital. Soft light filtered through crystal walls that somehow showed peaceful earth meadows on one side and alien starscapes on the other. The air smelled of flowers and fresh coffee. Comfortable chairs surrounded a table made from what looked like polished starlight. Admiral Zexthor sat stiffly in his chair, still wearing his battle armor. Across from him, Dr. Elizabeth Hart poured tea from a simple ceramic pot, humming quietly to herself. She wore a flowered dress and looked like someone's grandmother, not the representative of a civilization that could casually move moons. Emperor Maldrix, the Eternal, ruler of 1,000,000 worlds, sat at the head of the table looking very small. His golden robes and crown of stars seemed overdressed compared to the humans' simple clothes. Supreme Commander Vaktos stood behind him, hand on his weapon, glaring at everyone. "Cookie?" Dr. Hart offered, pushing a plate toward the Emperor. "I made them myself. Chocolate chip. They're very popular on Earth." Emperor Maldrix stared at the cookies as if they might explode. "Dr. Hart, let us discuss terms immediately. What are your demands?" Dr. Hart looked hurt. "Demands? Oh my, Your Majesty, we don't make demands. We make requests. Very different thing." "What do you request, then?" Sarah Chen, who had introduced herself as both mayor and chief negotiator, pulled out what looked like a simple tablet. "It's really quite straightforward, Your Majesty. We'd like you to stop enslaving people." "Impossible," Supreme Commander Vaktos snapped. "The Empire requires workers. Our economy depends on—" "Oh, honey," Dr. Hart interrupted gently. "That's what everyone says. We used to think we needed slaves too. Then we invented better ways to do things." Professor Wu, who had joined them with what appeared to be a briefcase full of engineering drawings, nodded enthusiastically. "Much better ways. Would you like to see some examples?" Before anyone could answer, holographic displays filled the air above the table. They showed Imperial mining operations, but somehow transformed. Where there had been thousands of slaves digging with primitive tools, machines now did the work automatically. Where slaves had carried heavy loads, floating platforms moved materials effortlessly. "These are just basic improvements," Professor Wu explained. "With proper automation, you could increase productivity by about 5,000% while eliminating the need for forced labor entirely." Emperor Maldrix leaned forward. "This technology, you would share it?" "Of course," Sarah said brightly. "We love sharing. It's one of our favorite things." "In exchange for what?" Dr. Hart smiled. "In exchange for you being nice to people. It's not complicated." Supreme Commander Vaktos slammed his fist on the table. "This is a trick. No one gives away technology worth trillions of credits for nothing." "Oh, but we're not giving it away." "For nothing," Dr. Hart corrected him. "We're giving it away for something much more valuable than credits." "What?" "Peace of mind. Do you know how hard it is to sleep at night knowing that millions of people are suffering when you could help them? It's terrible for digestion." Admiral Zexthor found himself speaking up. "Dr. Hart, your people seem to have technology that makes our greatest achievements look primitive. Why do you care about slaves in the Empire?" Dr. Hart set down her teacup and looked at him with kind eyes. "Admiral, do you have children?" "Yes, 2 daughters." "Do you love them?" "Of course. Would you want them to be slaves?" "Never." "Well, every slave in your empire is someone's child, too. Someone loves them just as much as you love your daughters." She reached across the table and patted his hand. "We can't stand by and watch children suffer when we have the power to help. It goes against everything we believe in." Emperor Maldrix was studying the holographic displays. "These automated systems, how much would they cost to implement across the Empire?" Professor Wu did some quick calculations in his head. "Oh, practically nothing. We've got about 12,000 manufacturing cities that aren't doing much right now. We could build everything you need in a few months. The hardest part would be figuring out where to put it all." "And you want nothing in return except the freedom of our slaves?" "That's right," Sarah confirmed. "Though we'd also like to set up some schools, hospitals, and recreational facilities. Former slaves often need help adjusting to freedom. We're quite good at that sort of thing." Supreme Commander Vaktos was turning purple again. Your Majesty, this is obviously a trap. No one is this generous without ulterior motives, Dr. Hart sighed. Commander, what would our ulterior motive be? We already have everything we need. We can create energy from nothing, build cities in minutes, and travel faster than light by asking time nicely to bend around us. What could we possibly want from you? Conquest, domination, resources. We can make our own resources, dear. As for conquest, Dr. Hart looked genuinely puzzled. Why would we want to conquer anyone? That sounds like an awful lot of paperwork. Professor Wu nodded vigorously. Terrible paperwork. We tried conquering a small asteroid once just to see what it was like. The forms alone took 3 days to fill out. Never again. Emperor Maldrix was quiet for a long moment. Around the table, holographic displays continued to show impossible technologies that could transform his empire overnight. Finally, he spoke. What guarantee do we have that you won't use these gifts to control us later? Sarah pulled out another device and placed it on the table. This contains the complete technical specifications for everything we're offering. All of it, including detailed instructions on how to build, maintain, and improve every system. You're giving us your secrets? All of them. We want you to be completely independent. The last thing we want is to create a dependency relationship. Admiral. Zexthor stared at the device. That's your entire technological database? Oh, heavens no, Dr. Hart laughed. That's just the basic stuff. If you want the advanced technologies, you'll have to earn them. How? By being good neighbors. Help other species, solve problems peacefully, maybe invent something useful to share with everyone. The usual requirements for joining the galactic community. There's a galactic community? Emperor Maldrix asked. Oh yes, about 40,000 species so far. We meet every few years for a big potluck dinner and share stories. It's quite nice. You'd be welcome to join once you've sorted out this slavery. Business. Supreme Commander Vaktos looked like he was about to have a stroke. Your Majesty, surely you're not considering... Commander, the Emperor said quietly, be silent. Vaktos's mouth snapped shut. Emperor Maldrix stood up and walked to one of the crystal walls, looking out at the human cities floating peacefully in space. Each one contained millions of people living lives he couldn't even imagine. Technologies that made his greatest achievements look like toys. A civilization so advanced that they offered to transform his empire out of simple kindness. Dr. Hart, he said finally, if we agree to your terms, what happens to our military, our government, our way of life? Whatever you want to happen, Your Majesty. We're not here to change your culture or tell you how to live. We just want you to stop hurting people. Everything else is up to you. And if some of our people resist these changes, Dr. Hart's expression became slightly more serious. Then we'll be disappointed in them too. But we'll deal with that if it happens. The way she said, deal with, made Admiral Zexthor's blood run cold. He suddenly remembered that these gentle cookie-baking people had casually moved a moon just to send a message. Your Majesty, he said quietly, I recommend we accept their offer. Emperor Maldrix turned back to the table. 10,000 years of absolute rule had taught him to recognize power when he saw it. The humans had power beyond his comprehension, and they were offering to use it to help rather than harm. Very well, he said. Dr. Hart, on behalf of the Galactic Empire, I accept your terms. We will begin the process of emancipating all slaves immediately. Dr. Hart clapped her hands together with delight. Wonderful! Professor Wu, could you start drawing up the implementation timeline? Already on it, Wu replied, pulling out more holographic displays. I think we can have the basic automation systems installed within 6 months. The educational and medical facilities will take a bit longer. Supreme Commander Vaktos stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. Your Majesty, I cannot allow this. The Empire does not bow to aliens. Commander, Emperor Maldrix said sadly, you're relieved of duty. What? You can't... I just did. The Emperor turned to Admiral Zexthor. Admiral, you're promoted to Supreme Commander. Try to do better than your predecessor. Zexthor stood and saluted. Yes, Your Majesty, it will be an honor. As the former Supreme Commander was escorted away, still shouting about imperial pride, Dr. Hart poured fresh tea for everyone. Now then, she said cheerfully, let's talk about the details. Sarah, did you bring the welcome packet? Admiral Zexthor, now Supreme Commander Zexthor, accepted a cup of tea and a cookie. Around him, humans began planning the transformation of a galactic empire with the same casual efficiency they might use to plan a neighborhood barbecue. Outside the crystal walls, children's laughter echoed from the human cities, carrying the promise of a better future across the stars. Part 5. Earth Returns. 6 months later, Supreme Commander Zexthor stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking down at what used to be the largest slave mining operation in the galaxy, where thousands of beings had once labored in dangerous conditions. Gleaming automated facilities now extracted resources with perfect efficiency. Former slaves walked freely through gardens that had been built where the old prison barracks once stood. The productivity reports are in, Supreme Commander, his aide, Lieutenant Kethrall, announced. Output is up 4,000% across all sectors. Worker satisfaction surveys show... He paused, checking his tablet. 100% happiness ratings. Zexthor nodded, still amazed by the transformation. And the humans? They're holding their monthly barbecue in Sector 7. Dr. Hart invited you to join them. She mentioned something about teaching you to make her famous potato salad. Despite himself, Zexthor smiled. The former kindergarten teacher had become one of his closest advisors, helping him navigate the complex process of transforming a slave empire into what she called a proper civilization. Her patience with his questions was endless, even when he asked about things that seemed obvious. To humans, Sir, Kethrall continued, we've also received a message from Emperor Maldrix. He's officially retiring and wants to transfer full governmental authority to the new Galactic Council. He says he's looking forward to opening his coffee shop. That was perhaps the most surprising change of all. The 10,000-year-old emperor had discovered that he actually enjoyed making coffee much more than ruling an empire. His little shop on New Geneva Station had become quite popular, especially his specialty blend that he called Imperial Roast. Any word from the resistance movements? Zexthor asked. The last holdout group surrendered yesterday, sir. Apparently, their members got tired of living in caves when they could have comfortable apartments and unlimited education instead. Commander Veltog sent a personal apology and asked if we still needed engineers for the new hospital construction project. Zexthor laughed. The humans had dealt with Imperial resistance in the most effective way possible, by being so overwhelmingly nice that opposing them became embarrassing. It was hard to maintain a rebellion when your enemies kept offering you job training and free health care. Sir, came a new voice over the ship's communication system. It was Professor Wu, calling from his mobile laboratory. You might want to look toward the Sol system. We're about to have a demonstration. Zexthor turned his attention to the long-range scanners. The Sol system, humanity's home, had been quarantined for months while they conducted what Dr. Hart vaguely described as some renovations. No one had been allowed to visit, and even human ships avoided the area. What kind of demonstration, Professor? Oh, just showing off a bit. We finished our homework assignment. Homework assignment? Sarah Chen's voice joined the conversation. She was currently managing the construction of the galaxy's largest university on what used to be an imperial prison world. The galactic community gave us a challenge when we applied for full membership. They wanted to see if we could solve the energy crisis that's been affecting the Outer Rim territories. And, well, Professor Wu said with obvious pride, we may have gotten a bit carried away with our solution. On Zexthor's main screen, space around Earth suddenly lit up with impossible colors. Reality seemed to bend and twist as something enormous emerged from what looked like folded space. It wasn't a ship or a station. It was an entire star, burning with controlled fusion fire towed gently into position near Earth's sun. "You moved a star," Zexthor said faintly. "Borrowed," Dr. Hart corrected over the communication channel. "We borrowed it from a system where it was going to explode anyway. The locals were quite grateful to get rid of it. Now it can provide clean energy for the next billion years." "But how?" "Oh, that's the easy part," Professor Wu explained. "Stars are just really big fusion reactors. You ask them nicely to come with you, promise to take good care of them, and most of them are quite cooperative. This one is particularly friendly. It keeps its solar flares to a minimum and puts on lovely light shows on weekends." Zexthor watched as the borrowed star settled into a stable orbit, immediately beginning to provide additional energy to thousands of worlds through some invisible human transmission system. The energy crisis that had plagued the galaxy for centuries was solved in an afternoon. "There's more," Sarah added cheerfully. "Show him the planets, Professor." The view shifted to show the other worlds of the Sol system. Mars, which had been a barren red desert, was now a garden world covered in blue oceans and green continents. Jupiter had been replaced entirely by what looked like a massive crystalline sphere that reflected starlight in rainbow patterns. "We needed more living space," Dr. Hart explained, "so we terraformed Mars over the weekend. Lovely place now, very popular with retirees. And Jupiter was getting a bit boring, so we converted it into the galaxy's largest library. It holds the complete knowledge of every species we've ever met, plus some very nice reading rooms." "You converted a gas giant into a library," Zexthor repeated, wondering if his translation systems were malfunctioning. "Multi-dimensional library," Professor Wu corrected. "It exists in about 40 different spatial dimensions simultaneously, so we have plenty of room for expansion. The children's section alone is larger than most star systems." Lieutenant Kethrall was staring at his instruments in bewilderment. "Sir, I'm reading energy signatures from the Sol system that exceed the output of entire galactic clusters. How is that possible?" "Oh, that's just the coffee machines," Dr. Hart said dismissively. "We take our coffee very seriously. Can't have a proper civilization without good coffee." Zexthor closed his eyes and tried to process what he was seeing. In 6 months, the humans had transformed his empire from a slave-based dictatorship into a peaceful cooperative, solved the galaxy's energy crisis by borrowing a star, and converted Jupiter into a library that existed in 40 dimensions. All while maintaining their charming habit of treating the impossible as routine. "Dr. Hart," he said finally, "what are you people really?" "We're just humans, dear. Though I suppose we should mention that we might have accidentally become something more along the way." "Something more?" Professor Wu cleared his throat. "Well, you see, Supreme Commander, when we were developing our dimensional folding technology, we discovered that the universe has a sort of learning protocol. The more impossible things you do successfully, the more the universe decides you must know what you're doing." "I don't understand." "The universe gave us tenure," Sarah explained simply. "Academic tenure, but for reality. We're now officially classified as a Type 5 impossible civilization, which means the laws of physics are more like friendly suggestions when we're around." "We didn't plan it," Dr. Hart added. "It just happened gradually. One day we were struggling to get our flying cars to work properly, and the next day we were accidentally teaching stars to behave better. These things happen." Zexthor opened his eyes and looked at the readings from his instruments. The borrowed star was settling nicely into its new orbit, already providing clean energy to millions of worlds. Former slave planets were reporting record harvests and zero crime rates. The galaxy was more peaceful and prosperous than it had been in millennia. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we keep making things better," Dr. Hart said warmly. "We've got applications to join the galactic community from 17 new species this month. There's a lovely group of crystalline beings from the Andromeda galaxy who want help with their music education program. And the interdimensional whale migration is starting next month. We always throw a big welcome party for them. Interdimensional. Whales? Lovely creatures. They sing the most beautiful songs across multiple realities. We're hoping to teach them to harmonize with our coffee machines. On his screen, Zexthor could see human cities throughout the galaxy, each one a beacon of impossible technology and simple kindness. Children played in parks that existed in folded space. Former slaves attended universities built from crystallized. Starlight. Robots that ran on compressed time tended gardens that grew in 11 dimensions. "Dr. Hart," he said quietly, "thank you." "Whatever for, dear?" "For showing us a better way to live." "Oh, nonsense. You figured it out yourselves. We just provided some better tools and perhaps a cookie or two for encouragement." Lieutenant Kethrall approached with the latest reports. "Sir, the Galactic community has officially accepted humanity's membership application. They're also asking if we'd be interested in helping them solve a small problem with some aggressive species in the next galaxy over." "What did we tell them?" Zexthor asked. "Dr. Hart said she'd pack some extra cookies and we'd be right over." Zexthor laughed. 6 months ago. He had been a military commander in a vast empire built on suffering and fear. Now he was helping to run a peaceful civilization where the greatest challenges were solved with advanced technology and homemade cookies. Through his viewports, he could see the borrowed star shining steadily, providing clean energy to countless worlds. In the distance, human cities floated serenely through space, each one carrying millions of people who had accidentally become the kindest force in the universe. "Supreme Commander," came Dr. Hart's